Hey, welcome to Juliana's Kitchen. I like to cook from scratch and I'm a little bit of a mad scientist at heart and I do a lot of home style cooking. And today I'm going to show you how to make some savory, cheesy, sausagey breakfast muffins. So if you like the idea of home style cooking and you want to learn how to do all this kind of cookery, then follow me, subscribe, and you'll see all the new recipes coming down the pipe. And for now, let's hit the cutting table and I will show you how to make these yummy muffins. Okay, so the first thing we actually want to do before we start measuring dry and wet ingredients is let's get the sausage crisped up. So I've got 10 breakfast sausages here, and you can see that I made sure they're extra crispy, and that's the plan, just because I think that they would be nicer to have extra crispy sausages in the muffins, not raw. Do not cut raw sausages. Okay, so we're just going to get them on a paper towel to just be at the ready here for a minute. And we'll cut them up into little bite-sized pieces, but I want to use multitasking, or, you know, being efficient here. Use a little bit of oil that came out of the sausages when they were cooked to heat up some onion. So I got about half a cup of onion, and you want to be on a nice low to medium heat. And then I'm also going to add a clove of garlic, but I'm crushing it, so it's just a little bit of garlic. And we don't want to cook this till it's fully cooked. I just want to soften it enough, because if we put them in the muffin batter, they would be more pungent, whatever the word is. A little bit, they're a totally different flavor if you put them in the muffins raw. So I want to have it a little more subtle. So I am just going to softly heat up half a cup of onion and one little clove of crushed garlic there for about maybe a minute, just till it's nice and soft. And then I'm going to set this aside, and we'll see you on the actual cutting board table where we mix all the ingredients together to make these muffins delicious. See you in a sec. Okay, so as you can see, I waited till the sausage was cool and then chopped it up into nice little tiny bite-sized pieces. So we've got those ready at the side here. And now into your big, large mixing bowl, you want to put your dry ingredients first. So we've got 2 cups of flour. And then you want to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. I'm actually kind of doing a little bit of an experiment here. You could put 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder and skip the soda, but I heard a rumor that the soda makes things get fluffier, so let's find out. We'll know at the end of this recipe. And I will put the recipe in the comments or the description here so that you can follow along once we know the final outcome. The last dry ingredient you want to add is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then I like to mix it around a bit just so it's nicely blended, and it also helps get the flour nice and fluffy. So we shall do that step first. And then we're going to make a well in the middle of it, because that's where we're going to add the wet ingredients. Okay, so we'll just set that to the side here for a second, because now we want to do the wet ingredients. And I just use a measuring cup that is bigger than what I actually need. In this case, I'm using a 2-cup measuring cup, and I've got 3/4 cup of milk in there. And I'm also going to add, well, before I add the oil, you want to add 1 egg so that we can beat the egg first. So, because you want a well-beaten egg. And I'm just cheating by putting it all in one container instead of whipping an egg in a bowl and making all these different things in different measurements. So, add that 1 egg to your milk. And then just, because you have room and the milk's not going to fly out of the container, you can actually whip that egg a little bit. Just enough to break it up. And then you want to add your other wet ingredients, which happen to be 1/3 cup of oil. You can use whatever cooking oil you like. I just use olive oil, but you want to keep your olive oil light so that it doesn't have an overpowering flavor. Like if you got the really fancy expensive olive oil that's got the really strong flavor, I wouldn't use that for muffins. I would default to canola or corn oil or whatever regular cooking oil you use. Anyway, we want to mix that up and add it to the well in the dry ingredients. And then the secret to making really fluffy muffins is to try and mix it as little as possible. So you don't have to whip this till the cows come home. You can just do it, stir it enough just so that all the flour is absorbed. Looks good to me. Okay, and now we're just going to add those magical, awesome ingredients like the sausage and that onion and garlic. You can see here that it's still kind of white. It's not super translucent because remember I said I just wanted it warmed up enough to tone down the flavor a little bit. So it's not overkill. So you want to add the onions and then you want to add a cup of cheese, your favorite kind of cheese. I like to use strong, like sharp, old cheddar cheese. Any kind of cheddar cheese is usually better. Don't use mozzarella or Parmesan. That's probably going to be weird because they're too mild of a flavor. But cheddar is nice and sharp and goes really well with the sausage. And I cut it up into little cubes. As you can see here, they're kind of about the size of peas. I just think that by doing that, we might be more likely to have like little, when you bite your muffin, you have a little pop of delicious cheese. Whereas if we use grated cheese, then it's gonna kind of evaporate or dissolve into the muffin batter. And then you just don't get these cheesy little pops in your mouth. I also think because it's savory, you can add some greens if you like, so for color and flavor. So I have some fresh parsley here, and I'm gonna chop some of the fresh parsley and add it. And maybe if you need an exact measurement, I would say we'll end up with about 1/4 cup here. 1/4 cup, couple of teaspoons, just enough for greenery, really, I think. Adds some interest and a bit of flavor. So, and of course it's washed. That's like a kitchen rule if you've never cooked before. Step 1 is always wash everything. Wash your hands, wash the counters. There, okay, so just a little bit of greenery with the nice fresh parsley. And I think this would be tasty with a little bit of fresh dill. So I'm not gonna add too much because I don't want it to overpower. So in this case, you might say, for measurement's sake, a tablespoon. Okay, a tablespoon of fresh dill. All right. So now we're just going to stir it as little as possible, just enough so that it's nicely mixed. And you can see the dough is not like cake batter. This is muffiny, so it's a little thicker, which is absolutely fine. And I am just giving it a stir to make sure that those are all nicely mixed in. And now we're going to put it in our muffin tin. All right, so I just use Pam. If you want to use a cloth and melted butter and coat each one of them with that. But I like shortcuts in cooking. So you can't shortcut on quality, but you can shortcut on cheats like this sometimes. So we're going to put them in the muffin tins. And then they're going to bake in the oven at 400 for, we're going to try 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. I will let you know how that turns out at the end of the recipe when we get to see what they're like at the end of the video. So you want to spoon them full, each of the muffin tins, probably about 2/3 to 3/4 full, depending on how big you want your muffins to be. But I won't hold you up. I'm going to stop the video and get this full and get them cooking. So we will see you at the finish line when they come out of the oven. There's one more step actually. When they come out of the oven, I'm going to experiment with, I'm going to melt about 3 tablespoons of butter. So when they come out of the oven, and I'll be with you, when they come out, we'll coat them with melted butter, and I'm going to grate a little bit more cheese and just put a little teeny bit on top of each of one of them. And we'll pop them back in the oven for a quick minute for that cheese to melt. Then we'll take them out, let them cool for a second, and then they'll be ready. But you'll see. Be right back. Okay, Looks like they took 17 minutes to be exact. So each oven's going to be different. So I forgot, I'm going to grab a toothpick and show you this trick. This is how you tell if a muffin is ready or not. I'm just careful, this might be hot. Because we want to put them back in the oven. You get a toothpick and you insert the toothpick. Try not to hit the cheese or the sausage. It's a game, it's a contest. If it comes out dry, then you know that the muffins are cooked. If it's still a bit wet, then you want to cook it for a few more minutes. Okay, so I actually don't even think they need this step. They looked like they turned out awesome, but I'm gonna just keep on following the recipe and see what happens. Maybe I'll only do some versus not, and then I can compare. So I melted the 3 tablespoons of butter, just heat it up in your microwave for a minute, and I'm just using a regular basting brush to coat them with a little bit of butter. Maybe I'll do the middle ones. If you don't happen to have a basting brush and you just want an easy cheat, don't melt the butter. And then just like have softened butter, but not totally liquid. And maybe you just spread it on with a knife or a spoon or something, just to get a little bit of the butteriness on there. All right, since I have it, I'll leave 2 without the butter, and I'll do the other ones, all of the rest with butter. Which makes me remember to point out, it's a funny thing about muffins, you never seem to get a whole dozen. I mean, you could, but then they'd be little, and we like little fluffier muffins. So I only got 11 with this recipe, but we'll just go with it, just letting you know. Okay, and then I grated about a cup of cheese, and I'm only gonna put a little bit on top of each one, so I might not even need all of this cheese. I mean, they look to me like they're already fantastically cheesy, so this might be over the top. But if you're a real cheese lover, then do it. And if you're not, you'll probably become one. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit on each muffin, except the little test ones we're going to leave plain. And I will put them back in the oven, probably only like as little as for as short a time as it takes for the cheese just to melt. So see you in a sec. Okay, look at them. They're awesome. They turned out fabulous, and I vote for the cheesy side, so I do recommend the ones with the more cheese on them than the one that's just simple. And if you're gonna make these and you have those silicone muffin pans, they're probably a good idea because cheese is a little stickier than other ingredients in muffins. So if your muffins happen to be stuck to the pan like mine were a little bit, just where the cheese was, while they're still warm, just run around the edges with a knife and they'll come out just fine. So there you have it. If you like this recipe and you want to stay tuned, follow me, subscribe. This is just the beginning of the Marvelous Muffins playlist. I think this is the 3rd muffin recipe in the series, and eventually when I have the whole, about a dozen or so, I am going to create a downloadable cookbook for you. So if you're ever serving muffins and you want to make them extra fancy instead of just, having them on the run, I always recommend you present them in a nicer way. It only takes a minute. So something like a napkin of any kind of colorful sort that you can get that's fabric or cloth. Fabric or cloth, same thing. Paper or cloth. Just line a wire basket. You can probably get these kind of baskets at dollar store or whatever. They don't have to be a big expense. Line it with the cloth and present your muffins in the basket. So you can have them like that to serve to your guests. I'm not going to hold up the video and keep going filling the whole 12, because the other option is if you serve a muffin, darlings, on a beautiful plate, it just tastes 10,000 times better, and I don't know why. I suppose it's the same reason why we don't drink wine out of plastic cups unless we have to. Anyway, there you have it. Beautiful, savory, cheesy, sausagey muffins. Bon appetit.